talking about health in general. Let's look at the issue of the ambulance. Let's just try and tie that in, and then we can wrap up with the 10-year-old boy who's dying. And by the way, we need more information on that. And I'm hoping that in the week, in this week, I mean the week that we started, that we'll see a bit more information from the Tema General Hospital, and perhaps if they are not bringing any information, maybe their supervisory council will speak, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But the Eswa Mahama administration is said to have entered into some kind of a deal where they purchased ambulances that were told, or been told now, that they're not fit for purpose. About 30 of them, estimated at 2.4 million euros, and it's been best described as waste, or better still, for many buses. That's what the latest information we're being told now. But that's the latest information, as I said, on that deal. The editor-in-chief of the Crusading Guide newspaper describes describes the whole deal as stinking. And that issue came to light when the Minister of Health, Kwekwaji Mamenu, went on a working tour this week. Let's listen to the Information Minister, Mustafa Hamid, yesterday on Newsfile.
The National Ambulance Service, led by Professor Zakaria, said that he went with his experts to inspect the vehicles, and they were just hollow Mercedes-Benz buses.
That was after they had been delivered?
They have been delivered to Ghana because the contract states that there should have been 3 inspections before the vehicles were delivered. They call something pre-production inspection. So they will go to the factory before they start the manufacture, in the process of manufacturing. And then when they have finished manufacturing, for us to go back again and inspect and be sure that they had met specification before they even ship. None of that was done. It was the Honorable Alban Bagbin who signed this contract. And then immediately after signing this contract, he was shuffled or reshuffled. Honorable Sherry Ayite came during her period as Minister for Health that this inspection should have happened. So the people produced what they wanted and then brought it in. Meanwhile, once they had brought it in and we had cited the goods, we proceeded to pay 25% as per the contract agreement. Now, when the ambulance service said that there was no purpose to these vehicles and that we didn't need them, and that they had to make them usable, we had to fit in the parts and make it a proper ambulance. Big C claims that it has since proceeded to acquire the equipment for making them proper ambulances. They say that the things have been shipped. Now, I have asked from ambulance service. Ambulance service say that yes, indeed, the things are locked up at the Tema port. But Big C, because of the court ruling against them that they can no longer deal or execute this contract without Richard Japa.
Okay.
They are holding on to the original bill of lading. I'm sure Ministry of Health requested auto parts to find out whether we could update these vehicles and make them usable.
Fit for purpose.
Fit for purpose.
Okay.
This letter comes.
And what does it say?
This particular ambulance we have has all these defects.
18 defects. What are they?
It says wrong specification of base units, not suitable for for even conversion into ambulances. VIN number shows no specification for any UAE market. Codes for the vehicle suitable for minibus conversion. Mix of old type of MB Sprinter and MB Sprinter facelift. Electronic devices and equipment of very poor quality. Electronic mounted in there are dangerous. No medical first delivery equipment. Medical storage compartments are not lockable, and so on. And this is consistent with the report that our ambulance service sent. When our ambulance service went to inspect the vehicles.
Well, you heard that. It's really interesting, and it baffles me. Like I said, it's been described as stinking. My question, by the way, you can go into all of the politics and go back and forth. My biggest question today is how the media missed that story, and whether or not, if the minister had not gone on a tour, whether this story would have been a story. That's something that we're even discussing, or whether it would have died a natural death. I mean, would he even be alive so that it would die? Let me start with you, Larry.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, the story wasn't missed. This story was first reported in 2016 in September.
Was it?
Yes. And apparently, the minister then, Alessa Befia, was in Parliament
Okay.
invited on certain ambulance services to Atebubu district and so on. And then during his interaction, this matter came up about how some 300 or something ambulances.
Well, was it in reference to this particular one?
Precisely, I'm coming.
Okay.
So about how some ambulances were procured, but amongst them, they discovered that 30 of them had this issue. So September 2016.
I wasn't in the country at the time.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, where were you?
I was I was on study leave. I was in the UK.
Okay.
But
so this issue has been there all this while. So it's nothing new that the minister has discovered.
I see.
It's nothing new that
That even makes the matter worse.
Well, if you could just allow me. But it's nothing new that the minister has discovered. It's nothing new that the media is reporting on.
Okay.
I remember reading this story, and I think even the Herald published it. I read it. The first story I read was on City FM.
Okay.
And it was done by Richard Sky or somebody. And Richard, I spoke with him a while ago, and he tells me that he even interviewed Alex Segbefi at the time, shortly after he came out of Parliament, where he made this revelation and so on. So it's nothing new. Maybe it's our follow-up, which was missing. For which reason? Maybe because you're not in town.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
So it's because, a lot of the media houses didn't follow up. That is why maybe we think it's new. And, and also maybe the minister now, Ajima Menu, also wants to make it look new. So we think that it's something new. It's
well,
if new, really.
Whether or not he wants to make it new is not for him to determine. It is for those of us in the media that will determine whether it is new or not. Because we are the newsmakers. We are the people looking. We are the news reporters. So we are looking at the issue and thinking that is this newsworthy. So he can't necessarily make it news. So we can't blame him that much. But if we knew about the story then in 2016. What happened? What happened then? Why then has it become a big deal now?
Okay, maybe it's become a big deal because then there's a new minister. The language, there's a new government, there's a new minister, a new, So the language is different. The choice of words is different. The reaction is different. Whoever is speaking to the issue, obviously, with all the necessary, words and so on. That is what is making it new. But there's nothing really new as
I'll come back and find out from you what you envisage as a media person, as an editor, what you envisage, how you envisage the story to be moved forward.
But my shock is that the person who was awarded the contract. Okay, I have a faint idea as to who he is.
As to who is?
Yes,
who is it?
The gentleman called Jakpa. Who was reported, by whose name was mentioned. I think from your the Newsfile program yesterday. Okay. I read his name that he was an aide to Lieutenant General Nunu Mensah. Sure. So I have an idea as to who he is, as to whether or not he has the capacity to do, to import all this and,
Okay, so the point you're making is that you think that it's questionable, the person behind the whole.
Yes, but then there's another side of all this where. I'm told that the president then, the issue was brought to his attention as the President Mahama, and he stopped it. He stopped payment. So who made the payment? We should find out who made the payment. And then, then we'll be getting to the bottom of it. And what was the person's interest?
Eddie, let me bring you into this.
He's asking who made the payment. That's an interesting comment.
You have the answer?
No, I don't have the answer. Obviously...
The letter was directed to the Deputy Finance Minister, Keslatu Fosu.
Well,
yeah.
The Health Minister then would have at least seen it and given approval. But who approved for?
So let's say it's between the Health Minister and the Deputy Finance Minister.
Alex Segbefi was the last Minister for Health under John Mahama. He says he didn't authorize the payments.
Yeah.
So who made the payments?
I don't know.
And the case came up in September 2016. I mean, we were getting close to elections, obviously. So someone took advantage of that and ensured that we didn't really hear much about it. But I mean, it's an issue. It's a question of value for money. I mean, as a country, why would we do this to ourselves when we know that, look, the ambulance system in the country is so weak?
But when you ask that question, really, are you surprised to hear stories like this? I become indifferent to stories like this because this is not the first time.
This is not the first time, and I think that...
and it shouldn't be the last time.
Yeah, of course. The
Certainly.
politicians themselves, I mean, they have a way of getting, I mean, finding their way around issues. Some of these things, for example, come up, they're able to find their friends on the opposing side,
Right.
and then they connive.
They sort it out.
So they sort it out, and then the media will be in the middle. We will just be roaming about looking for
information that doesn't exist.
It's a trade secret. Don't be revealing.
So the media is always caught up in the middle. I mean, shouting,
True.
where's the value for money? Where's the value for money? But, I mean, politicians truly do not care. 16th, September 2016, closer to elections, obviously the stakes were high. People were campaigning here and there. So someone will take advantage and then push a deal through for you to pay, and you wouldn't know that you've paid. So I think these are some of the issues. And
you wouldn't know you paid.
You wouldn't know you paid.
That sounds very interesting.
No, you wouldn't know you paid.
Eddie, what I say?
You wouldn't know you paid.
He's saying that there's a possibility. There's a possibility that in the heat of the elections, when everybody, well, apart from that, when everybody is, there are political points to be scored and people are pitching ideas and putting documents in front of you, etc., that it's possible because we have a lot of money as Ghanaians. I mean, I mean, because that's the only way that you pay monies without knowing that you've paid money. When you have a lot, as Larry is sitting here, if I should dip my hand into his pocket and see 20 notes and take 2 of it, he'll probably not even realize that I've taken any of. But because it's when you have in the abundance of cash, when some go, you won't even feel it. That's the point you're making.
That is it, exactly. Because politicians tend to gloss over some of these contracts when, we're getting into election years, and of course we are in election years, getting to an election month. What you do is that they push deals through. It is not peculiar to NDC or NPP. It's peculiar to all the governments we've had.
What is peculiar to NDC and NPP?
This kind of shady
Eddie, if the vehicles are bad, they are bad. If the payment had been stopped by the president, it has been stopped by the president.
But the payment has been made.
But then who made the payment is what we need to find out. And why the person made the payment is what we need to find out.
Okay, going forward.
You understand?
But you see, Larry, yes, going forward, what do you think we should do as media? What are your own expectations of your colleagues in the media and your own media house of pursuing the story and making it, at least sorting the people of Ghana out who have been, in this case, taken for granted, who have been in this case, I think, whose money has been wasted in this case?
You see, let me tell you something. It's a very important question. Let me put it that way. I feel sad most often, when the people of Ghana, kind of just taking everything on face value. Okay, we take things on face value. The media houses will report and report and report, and then they won't read. There are times when there's a story we've written, our best stories.
The details are there.
The details are there, and then a friend will call you and say, that thing, that is happening. What is really?
Then they haven't read.
Precisely.
So there's an issue about news consumption.
Exactly. So then they keep asking you the same question and all over again. And sometimes something, another news item just comes up and then the other one is quickly washed away.
That's it.
And then that is the end of it. So we don't do you would do the follow-up as a journalist. You would investigate what you need to investigate. You write a story, use your best words and adjectives and so on. And the man is just not interested. He's still asking you what that whole thing is about.
So you had a point that you wanted to make a point about this whole ambulance deal and whether or not we know who authorized that payment or who made the payment, even though you say the presidency. Sure.
Well, Alessa has mentioned that he had nothing to do with it. Of course. I don't know whether the one before him, has something to do with it, and then the one before. But if I listen to Mustafa Hamid, he mentioned that Honorable Agbagba being awarded the contract, or it was awarded during his tenure or something.
I didn't quite get that, but then
I think I got that.
But then, will that make sense?
Would that
To you?
make sense? Well, it depends on what the
Alba-
rules of
Alba Babin
engagement
left
were.
a long time ago.
Yes, I'm saying that it depends on what the rules of engagement were. Okay, what was on paper and what did the man supply? So we compare what was given him. You're supposed to supply A, B, C, D, but then you didn't. You did A, B, F, and Z. So then there's something missing. So we need to find out why this happened and why we didn't. Once you vary the terms of the contract, then there is an issue. Then you can't be paid.
I see.
And so
But he's
then
already been paid.
then we can
Whoever has been
exactly. So whoever paid him should be answering some questions and so on.
paid. Eddie.
I think that some of these issues should be addressed by the special prosecutor, because it's sad.
Special prosecutor.
Yes, the special prosecutor.
Onyambai.
You see,
But there has been a suggestion that when whoever becomes the special prosecutor should look at all of the cases that have been reported since the year began, even though, yeah. So maybe
of course,
that will
I
work.
mean, the special prosecutor should be doing a very genuine work, unbiased work by looking at NPP. NPP were appointing, obviously, looking at the NPP themselves, allegations of corruption in their government, and also go back to NDC and look at allegations of corruption in that government. But my point is that I heard Professor Zakaria, who is the chief executive of National Ambulance Service, and it was sad. He says that tentatively we have just a little over 100 vehicles or ambulances
100 ambulances.
on our roads, and out of this, it's just half of that is working. And you have the opportunity to import 200 of these vehicles to augment what is there. You're going for vehicles that are not. It's not just substandard, but they are not fit for the work.
So now what's going to happen to what we have? What do you think?
The 30,
Yes.
or they should take it to Kumasi Magazine.
You can't benefit from your wrong.
And fix.
So what's going to happen?
Well, that is why they are investigating, and so after the investigation, then we will know. But you
Then
see,
they
like
take the
I'm
vehicles back.
saying,
what are the possibilities? What's going to happen?
no, then the person who supplied the thing should be held accountable, and then the person who made the payment should also be held accountable.
But even if they are going to pay back,
Yeah.
what do you do with those vehicles that you have procured?
No, the point is, once you take back your money, the vehicle belongs to him. He can decide to use it for trotro. You understand? Or take it to, circle, the circle, station,
magazine, as you
exactly,
say.
and say that, okay, this is what, you guys have done the wrong thing. But, well, I have seen a couple of ambulances which were virtually empty. The only thing you had was, a small, tiny bed, and then maybe some equipment just to hold you in place, because it's a vehicle that is just to make you comfortable. And then you are dashed into a hospital for proper medical checkup. Just stabilize you before. So I don't know what really, like we are saying, like I said earlier, I don't know what were the terms of the contract. We should see the terms of it before we, even jump
Then
into
we'll be
conclusion.
okay.
Maybe the man was told that just, give us some small car with some small bed in it.
And so maybe that was the specification that they gave.
Maybe. So we need to look at the terms of the
That would
the
be
contract.
another issue.
Precisely. I mean, the media, we just sometimes the thing happens
You
and
get
then we are all over the
frustrated. Do you
place.
get frustrated?
Oh yeah, frustration happens all the time.
And
All the time.
but you've been doing this for a long time. Why haven't you given up?
Well, sometimes you feel like giving up. Sometimes you feel like giving up. Then, there's that reader who calls you and, will tell you that, listen, I love your story.
So that's what keeps you
Yes, I
going.
love your story. Is there a follow-up? Can you continue? And so on. And then, then you feel that, yes, at least there's one person who is reading me.
I
And there's
see.
one person who appreciates what I'm doing.
I see.
And then you wake up in the morning also, and then your son asks you, Daddy, won't you go to work?
It's the necessity of life, isn't it? Well, since you mentioned the special prosecutor, why don't we check that in, that bit of our conversation in? It's one of the things that have dominated the whole of this week. In fact, this week we've seen Star Ghana, for instance, which is a major partner, celebrating the International Democracy Day. They've put in some funding here and there to look at issues concerning the office of the special prosecutor. There's an interesting bit of the act. By the way, if you haven't seen the act, and I'm sure a lot of us haven't seen it. Odikro, they've been able to put I think all of it on the internet. I'm sure if you get to their website, you'll be able to have a look at that act. There's a bit of it that's quite disturbing. It was discussed extensively on Ghana Connect on Friday about funding for the office of the special prosecutor, and it appears that they're going to be accepting donations. Before I get into the bit of the donations, let me find out from you. Let me start with you, Eddie, what your thoughts are about the special prosecutor. It appears we have so many expectations. It's like expectations are high. It's like the oil find. Expectations are so high. Don't you get the feeling that some way, somehow, we're going to be disappointed?
Well, the special prosecutors bill. My bit that I was worried about was a clause in there, sub-clause 4 of the clause 3, where it tells you that the special prosecutor should wait for formal complaints, from institutions who have concerns about, someone or can
being corrupt or
yes, having identified that someone has performed or undertaken a shady deal like the ambulance service deal, then they take up the matter. I think that, just like CDD and other civil society groups calling on Parliament, or even those who are the drafters of the bill, to amend that and make sure that, the special prosecutor can initiate moves on his own. So if he hears that there's this corruption allegation at JoyNews or Moses TV, he moves in to come and do the investigation himself, not waiting on formal complaints. So that's one bit of concern.
Wouldn't that give the office certain powers that could be abused? Because if you can just move into any institution at all, any organization at all, to investigate corruption just because you think it exists, that's also quite problematic, wouldn't you say?
Not at all, because Ghana Police Service, we hear about CID swoops going into people's house, making sure that they get the people out and then do their investigations and all that. We talk about them, in some of them have been in Rambo style and all that, and those ones we condemn. But going into an office to investigate a corruption allegation upon a tip-off is not bad.
So the office of the special prosecutor should be able to do this without
be able
any formal
They should be
complaint.
armed enough to go to the various, when they hear about corruption allegations, move in and then start their own investigation. That's why they are even saying that the Whistleblowers Act should be passed, and the bill should be passed into an act and signed into a law, so that at least people who give information should be protected, or would be protected in a way. So for me, the special prosecutor shouldn't be limited. They should give them the room to operate. So they've heard about this shady ambulance deal,
and they
get into it, arrest whoever is supposed to.
If it's about getting someone to make a formal complaint, it's easy. You can always get someone to make a formal complaint, can't you? We in the media, for instance, can put in formal complaints. So shouldn't we just leave that bit as it is?
No, you see, formal complaints is always characterized by you being mentioned in the media that, look, when Charlotte Osei had a petition written about her to the presidency, they named those behind it. There was a council for those behind it. And clearly, if they do want to protect the identity of those people, if, for example, Charlotte had something to do with them, could have, gone to strike them. So you don't expose people who are willing to give information. That's what I'm saying. You should be able to protect them. They bring in information, protect them, take the information and act on them.
Okay, that's
so that is what I'm saying. That is the only bit I have issues with. And I think special prosecutor, the office in itself is a very good move. I only hope that they will be able to prosecute.
Some say it's a duplication of what already exists, that we have Straj, we have Yoko, we have the Attorney General, we have the, the Auditor General. These are all institutions that will be able to do the work that the first special prosecutor perhaps will be doing. What are your thoughts on that?
Those are they are intertwined. The work they do are intertwined.
If they are, then we don't need any more money to set up a new office.
The work they do is intertwined, but it doesn't limit I mean, it doesn't give. For example, Yoko, for example, will tell you that come and report to me.
So it's the same thing.
Shrad will tell you come and report to me.
It's the same thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. That there's an amendment that should be done so that they can also go ahead and.
So that perhaps is what sets them aside, or that makes them different from all the other organizations. Let me bring Larry in.
And the bit about it being under the office of, I mean, don't tell you that it's under the office of the Attorney General, but I mean, we know that eventually
it's going to be another. Well, if it does, then for me, it defeats the entire purpose, because the purpose is for this prosecutor to be away from the executive, to be able to touch the executive when they go wrong. That's against what people believe that the Attorney General does. Larry, what do you think? You were laughing.
Yes, I was laughing because then I noticed how Eddie was struggling. He's been my very good friend. I know, he can speak his mind at any time, but clearly he was struggling.
Why do you think he's struggling?
Struggling on your question about duplication of roles. You see, I have been at pains trying to tell a lot of my friends that this whole thing is duplication of roles. Anytime you are confronted as a nation, with a problem, we try to find something small, we try to create another institution. Anytime there's a problem, we create another institution.
And the previous institutions are ill-resourced so that they can't even perform.
It is not about being ill-resourced.
Yes.
Let me put it this way. Okay. You see, very often you hear people say that, Obama came to Ghana and said that, you know what, you need to...
we needed Obama to tell us.
Exactly, we need to build stronger, strong institutions. Strong institutions are built by strong men.
Okay, that's your own bit of it. Okay.
You see, strong institutions are built by strong men. It is why we have the Attorney General's Department, like you said, called with the powers of prosecution. We have the Director for Public, prosecution, also having the powers to prosecute. We have the police prosecuting on behalf of the Attorney General's Department. We have BNI prosecuting. We have CID prosecuting. We have, we have even SNIT is able to prosecute. We have IOCO prosecuting. At a point in time, even Food and Drugs Board could also prosecute.
Well, they all prosecute.
What do we need this thing for?
Things that are relevant to their sectors.
No, I mean, stealing is stealing. Crime is crime. Crime is not supposed to have any political definition. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Crime is not supposed to have any, political definition. So if the man stole money, deal with him. Don't go and create a certain nomenclature thinking that, okay, when you put my sister in charge of it, it means that my sister will be looking for, my mother's enemies, to prosecute.
So in your opinion,
yes,
the Office of the Special Prosecutor is a needless duplication?
It's needless. We should just, have a strong government saying that, listen, prosecute this person. If my people are wrong, prosecute them.
Gifty, I disagree.
As we speak, I'm coming. As we speak, there are about dockets which were submitted to the Attorney General's Department on past ministers, of the Kufuor administration. About 12 of them. I know some of those cases. They are sitting down there gathering dust. Okay, those ones who gather the dust, and eventually maybe one day the place will be set ablaze, and then that is the end of it. Okay, but then but fresh ones, there's a fresh government, so fresh cases are being built and so on. Then one day we'll wake up, and then this government is also dislodged, and then these cases also are shelved by whichever party comes to office. What are we doing to ourselves as a nation? These are the questions we need to ask. One day we discovered that we needed, we have discovered. People were complaining about government increasing fuel prices. So then we create a National Petroleum Authority. Then we discovered that then how different is that from Energy Commission? How different is that from Petroleum Commission, which is now headed by Egbert Fable? Okay? How different is that from, this one, GMPC, National Petroleum Corporation, and so on. So every now and then we try to create, we duplicate some roles thinking that we are addressing a particular problem. We don't address any problem.
They don't address the problems. They just come to spend more of our
If like markets on this.
Eddie disagrees with you, and I'm interested to know why you think that his point doesn't.
Well, his point will be moot if, one, the current government is able to separate the office of the special prosecutor from the Attorney General's office, where the special prosecutor will have its own independent way of dealing with issues. Now, what Larry is forgetting or has left out is that the Attorney General is appointed by the President, and it is most likely that the Attorney General will not be able to prosecute people from his own government. So that is one leg of the argument.
If that's
let me land.
Who is appointing the special prosecutor?
Let me finish. So let me finish. You see, if President appoints an Attorney General and there's rot in this government, the Attorney General will be very hesitant to prosecute. But when we have an independent prosecutor who is
being appointed by the President.
Exactly. but the difference here is that you have security of tenure. So when the Attorney General who has been appointed by the President loses an election, and the Attorney General moves out of office with the President. The special prosecutor will still be in office because he has security of tenure to be able to prosecute. And that is the difference.
Then they'll bring a petition against him.
Exactly. The special prosecutor
but the director of public prosecution
will cut across governments and regimes
Okay.
because of the security of tenure, and that makes it different. So that is the bit Larry should know.
Okay. Larry, what do you think? He's run down your point basically.
You see, let me tell my friend.
Let's make that your final thoughts on this one so that we can move on with the next.
This is who we are as a people. We are the sort of maybe we should even define what this whole corruption bit is all about.
Don't we know what corruption is?
Oh well.
The kind of corruption that happens in
there are types of corruption, you know.
There are types of corruption.
According to Kofi Kotofe, he says there's spiritual corruption. Do you want me to name them?
No, please, Larry, go on with your point.
You see, so you have a president who obviously wouldn't go and appoint, let's say, who was the last Attorney General under President Mahama?
The last Attorney General.
Yeah, okay, Marietta. Who wouldn't go and appoint? Who wouldn't go appointing Mrs. Marietta Bropong as the head of as the special prosecutor? It will never happen.
Yes, it won't happen.
It will never happen. Obviously, because I have heard.
If you give the person the room to give him the assurance that I am staying in this
we
office.
Don't appoint people. We are not. You see, he's forgetting the point about. He's forgetting about. He's forgetting. I'm saying.
We know how things happen in this country.
He's forgetting about the patronage system. He's forgetting about the. He's forgetting about the patronage system. He's forgetting about merit system. Ghana or in Africa, we don't appoint people on merit.
But that doesn't mean that you can't do anything about the situation.
Already, I've heard that Akoto Ampao, who obviously had worked with Nanado, who was part of Nanado's campaign team and so on, is being trumpeted as the one who is supposed to go there.
If even before the person assumes office, you assume way before the person starts working that
I'm just telling you that the government is inward looking when it comes to this particular appointment.
That would be fair enough, but then it doesn't mean that something cannot be done about the problem which we're seeking to address with this office. You get my point. So, but Eddie, your point.
You allow me to talk.
No, please, you're allowed to talk.
Let me remind Larry that, you see, I'm not going back, but I'll have to go back. I didn't want to go back.
You have to move forward.
I want to touch on the point. You see, President Mahama appointed the Auditor General a few days before he left office.
Yes, sir.
And that was very good. Do you know why? Ask me why.
He was condemned.
But the Auditor General is working. No one has stopped him.
No, but he was condemned before then.
Larry.
Until then, the people who had condemned him had an encounter with him.
It was part of a wholesale discussion about how the government knew after election that it had lost the election, was still doing things as though,
When was the term supposed to end?
You didn't let me land.
Please.
Sorry. My friend is engaging in premature ejaculation. But let me land on my point. What I'm saying is that, you see, the truth about the issue is that President Mahama appointed an Auditor General a few days to he leave in office.
Right.
And I'm telling you that is a solid move. Do you know why? Because this Auditor General is going to be in power, or is going to be in office for quite some time, a long period. He will be able to prosecute people without fear or favor. I mean, people in this government, because he wasn't appointed by this government anyway. And it will be difficult for you to remove him. So if you give somebody like that a chance to work, appointed by a different regime, working under a new regime, he's able to do his work independently.
Okay, without bias. So it's about giving them the chance.
Good.
Giving them the necessary
security of tenure, knowing very well that my tenure will cut across at least 2 regimes or 2 different governments, so that when I'm working, and I mean they raise concerns and all that, I'm still working. I don't really care. I'm doing an independent work, an unbiased work. That is what I'm talking about.
One would say that the problem really about this country is the cycle of politics that we do, and the fact that it's a winner takes all thing. That's what's eating at our good. I mean, that's what's putting us at a disadvantage. Yes.
Stealing is stealing.
Yes, but
and it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter who steals. And sometimes the media is also to blame.
How?
Okay. See, we have taken sides. We have taken sides.
We haven't.
We have.
We haven't. We're looking at the issues. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I have not taken
the media,
any side.
You see, well, sorry.
The media has no sides, actually.
No, I think the media has.
Well, you make your point.
The media has, where, the person steals money, you've reported on it, you've investigated it, and then, his friends come, and then, they are also reporting a different side of all this, altogether. Then there's so much confusion. The person investigating is being attacked, holes are being punched left, right, center, and so on. Let me give you a typical example.
Please.
The snitch thing. A certain institution decides that the new management discovered a thing like that. The first thing they should have done was to investigate the thing properly. You don't do a press conference where at the press conference was that you were to award the contract to the investigator or the guy who was supposed to do the forensic investigation.
You thought that they should have just gone ahead.
Go ahead, coolly, Pricewaterhouse, and let the thing roll properly.
Okay. So that's an example.
Yes,
Let's come back to the point that you were trying to make with this whole. I mean, so that we can wrap up on the special prosecutor's bill. What was the point you're trying to make with this example?
Okay, that after that press conference. Then everybody, morning, afternoon, evening, there's one thing, there's a media trial sort of, come and answer this. How about this particular one? Have you seen this document? You wrote, I'm coming, you wrote this, you did that. If the institution hadn't, organized that press conference and exposed itself to this kind of thing, the media wouldn't be questioning.
You think so?
Yeah, precisely. You would have heard about it.
I don't think so.
No, I'm coming. You would have heard about it. You would have followed it up. The institution would have told you that, listen, we are investigating the thing. And then maybe, as a journalist, you wanted to end there. Okay? And then the people involved too would have told you that, listen, I'm subject to a certain investigation. So allow that thing to roll. After that, then we can talk.
Well, I don't think
but
so.
Then
I'm
now,
not saying so because over here at Multimedia we had documents. So even if they didn't do their press conference, we'll still have probed the matter because it was an investigation. We had the documents.
You had documents.
Yes.
You intercepted it.
So well. so even if they didn't do the press, so even if they didn't do the press,
dropped.
like you said,
was it intercepted or it was dropped?
Like you said, we have the documents. Like you said, stealing.
Like
you said, stealing is stealing.
Yeah.
Kwekubako is my mentor, so it's good to emulate him, isn't it? Stealing is stealing, like you said.
He's mentored a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'm quoting you here, Larry. Stealing is stealing. So whether or not they did a press conference wouldn't have stopped us from probing it. But let's wrap up with the conversation about the special prosecutor's bill. You are against it, obviously. Will anything change your mind? What will this government do with this bill or with this setup, the office setup, that will change someone like you, will change your mind?
I just think that is a duplication of roles.
So nothing
like you said, you mentioned why would we have Yoko prosecuting? In any case, most of these things, like the ambulance thing that he kept talking about, the ambulance matter is now before Yoko, we are told. Earlier, cases are also before the same Yoko. Even the snitch matter is before Yoko. It's before.
Okay.
I'm coming over.
Let me correct you.
I'm coming.
You see, Yoko,
let's wrap up.
and the rest, what they do is is to investigate issues.
Okay.
This office is to prosecute. These are two different issues.
No, I'm coming.
But if you investigate and you don't prosecute, then what's the point?
No, they investigate and then go to AG, Attorney General.
Yes.
I'm saying that these
So
institutions also have prosecutorial powers.
Yes,
Let's
which is
admit
true.
that.
Which is true. Which
They
is true.
have
That they
prosecutorial
can
powers.
move on with the so that isn't really a special function
No.
of the office of the special prosecutor. But it doesn't also mean that we cannot have a special. We cannot try a new institution to deal with the mountain of corruption that we seem to be dealing
You know
with
what
in
we
this
will
country.
have? Do you know what we will have? One day we'll wake up and then you and I will be here discussing that, we should have a special prosecutor's office.
I hope that doesn't happen.
Because-
but let me take a few comments on Facebook, by the way. I'm having difficulties uploading some of our pictures like I always do. So let me just go through what I have here. Daniel Atta was speaking about the Tema General Hospital. He says the Tema General Hospital doctors' negligence you're talking about is just the tip of the iceberg. Many voiceless patients are really suffering in the hands of Ghanaian doctors and nurses. God be with us all. Certainly God be with us. Paul Heihei says we have AG in Accra. We have its regional offices, no funding, no staff, no logistics. Yet you want to start up a new bureaucracy, a needless duplication. This will suffer the fate of AG, no funding, no staff, no logistics, waste of money, waste of time. Prince Tahiru Wayamsin from Tireponi says the role of the media in fighting corruption must sound as same tune to that of the Galamsey chorus. The only success story about the Ghanaian media is the war against Galamsey. Oh, seriously? Against the Galamsey, aside that there's nothing too monumental chalked in the media, you say. Said about the Ghanaian media. Excuse my language. This is the sad truth. Okay, so Prince Tahiru, I sincerely disagree with you. The only success of the media is not Galamsey. The media has helped a lot of people change lives, transform lives.
Change governments.
Actually, yes. So it's certainly not. It's certainly I don't agree with you on that. And needless bureaucracy, useless duplication. We do not need Office of Special Prosecutor. It is not going to work. It is bound to fail. That's Paul again on that. I was talking about the funding. Let's take 1 minute each of your submission on this. Funding includes donation. That for me is a very tricky part. For you who doesn't even believe in it, it will be even more annoying. But you think that that's a part that shouldn't be in the act at all, I'm sure.
So it confirms that even the people who are setting up the thing recognize that there's a problem.
Okay.
Yes, there's a problem. There's a problem of funding. The other institutions, IOCO had issues with funding, and mind you, IOCO used to be SFO, Serious Fraud Office. And then, the international partners raised issues about it and so on. And then the Mills administration had to change it from, give it a new image, give it a new name, and then all that. But it was the same thing, suffered issues of funding and other, issues, political issues and so on. Okay, political tagging, if you like. So, then this thing has to come. The Akufo-Addo government setting up this thing. And you are telling me that they are going to rely on what? Donation.
It's part of the funding.
Okay, so
government is going to be funding the office, but they're also open to.
So I can go and steal.
Well,
I'm coming. So I can go
I'm sure they will screen it. I'm sure they will vet it.
I remember as a young reporter, I did a story. I did a story about SFO. SFO was investigating a certain institution, SIC thereabout also, and then they wrote to SIC to give them, some money, and I saw the check, and so it became an issue. How can you? And SIC at the time was subject to that investigation. Okay, it was like
Did they pay the money?
Yes, they paid. I saw the check, and I questioned the authorities back then, and they told me that yes, the thing came and that they needed something small for allowances here and there and so on. Yes. You're investigating an institution and you're collecting money from them.
Okay, so
and this one also.
You, your point is clear enough.
You go and steal money, so I can go and steal, and then say that special prosecutor, you take just take this one. I got something small. Just take.
That sounds like some kind of a great hole in the argument that you've made so far. If we're going to be relying on donation for the special prosecutor office, then that is obviously a big problem.
To hear that, donations will be part of the funding for the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But I will recommend two sources. The first source obviously should be the government of Ghana, GOG source of funding through a budgetary allocation by the finance minister in its annual budget reading. The second should be from the donor partners. I mean,
donor partners.
Yes, let me finish. You see, clearly, we've had institutions, or we continuously have institutions being funded by donor partners, Danida, UK Aid, US Aid. And these are institutions, exactly. These are institutions that fund them to do either issues related to democracy, or achieving, deepening democracy and governance, and also ensuring that, I mean, we deal with corruption. One institution in Ghana that does, I mean, that receive funding from outside is Ghana Integrity Initiative, which is under the Transparency International umbrella. I mean, foreign donor partners are always willing to support matters or issues that are corruption related.
Wrap up for me on that point.
So it is going to be a two-pronged approach. They should look at foreign donor support for funding. I mean, EC receives funding from outside.
When we are spending 2.4 million euros on buses that are not fit for purpose, but still.
That is what I'm saying. That, I mean, these, once the donor partners know that they are investing into something that has to do with checking financial malfeasance and the rest, they'll be happy to do so. I mean, Danida and UK Aid and US Aid have been doing it. I mean, for even our elections.
Well, I don't know what your thoughts about the Special Prosecutor Office is. We've been talking about it for a very long time, so I'm sure that a lot of you are anticipating and hoping, when is it going to be established? And so we can see whether there's any difference between that particular office and all of the offices that Larry has quoted here, as for which reason he thinks that this is a needless duplication. But we'll still have to wait and see. Well, sometimes you get frustrated talking about one thing over and over again. But let's see how it goes. Let's talk about free SHS. We have less than 30 minutes to wrap up. Let's talk about free SHS and the issues that have come on it this week. From stranded parents and students to sacked and interdicted head teachers. That is the latest on the free SHS. And we understand that this could be in breach of the GES Act 506. Now, two head teachers, Wisdom Blazu and Reverend SP Elewoko of the Pentecost Senior High School in the 18 region, and Assistant Headmaster of Darfur Senior High School, respectively, were relieved of their post on charges of breaching SHS, the free SHS guidelines. We're going to take the comment from the Director of the Ghana Education Service and the response from the teacher unions. I don't know if we'll be able to do that because of time. Let me quickly take your thoughts on that. Let me start with you, Larry. Some have said that this is harsh. Indeed, the teacher unions are very unhappy with the GES. They think that, first of all, they've not even followed the procedure, that there's a certain procedure that you have to go through if you want to sanction head teachers. There's a certain procedure. They have not looked at that procedure. They think that the result or the meeting that they held in Accra, they wanted to see minutes of the meeting, what happened at that particular meeting, and for which reason they're sacking them. Whatever investigations they said they've carried out, what went into that investigation, what came out from that investigation. They think that none of these have been done. All they heard was that teachers have been interdicted. They fear that this is going to mute the head teachers, make it very difficult for them to even complain about issues with the free SHS if they have genuine concerns. And they think that this is the exercise of excessive powers, or excessively negative powers, if you like, so to speak, by the GES against the head teachers. What are your thoughts?
I think that the survival of the government, the regime, or the MPP depends on this whole free SHS thing. The survival of this regime, the Akufo-Addo's regime, depends on this. So they will do everything to ensure that, you know, this happens. And so anything that looks like a barrier or something that crosses them will be crushed, and it will be crushed, you know. They will teach you a bitter lesson you'll never forget.
But this is a policy. It is a free policy. It's a new policy that's been rolled out.
It's a policy.
Well, hold on. It's a new. Let's just assume
it's a program. It's not a policy. A policy is when you take the thing to Parliament, it's passed, and everybody accepts it, and so on.
No, we can have a policy
that doesn't necessarily go through Parliament.
You don't go to Parliament. There was a policy that former government appointees shouldn't buy their vehicles. I mean, it's it's a government policy. I mean,
it's a directive
it's a
from the
directive.
president.
It's a directive.
Yeah,
I'm sure
But
we
this
could
is not a directive.
we could
This
find
is a
out we
policy.
could find out what maybe
But you see, to move the story, to move the conversation
Yeah.
forward, that's why I was saying that. Let's
you
assume
were
that
limiting me. I was coming from a point.
no, let's assume that it's a policy.
That you see, this whole thing started with the MPP saying in its manifesto of 2016. Check, page 104. Okay, the chapter on education, where the MPP said that they were going to ensure that SHS redefining education, basic education will move it,
SHS.
yes, from nursery all the way into SHS. Now they come into office, and we are being told that this whole redefinition of education and basic whatever it is, it's supposed to be it's free SHS. What happens to a nursery thing? What happens to the kindergarten?
Let's deal with
no, I'll come there. I'm just coming there.
Okay.
And I had told you that anybody who stands on the way of the government is going to be crushed.
I see. So you think that's what's happening?
That is what is happening.
But when the head teachers have breached guidelines, I mean, if I have told
what were the guidelines?
Larry, when you were coming,
have you seen the guidelines?
Assuming,
have you seen the guidelines?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And to be fair,
so how do we judge
and to be fair to the head teachers, by the way, when Charles met in the Volta region on this particular matter before the schools reopened, they requested for what they were calling the free SHS Bible because they wanted to be clear. They wanted to be clear on what to do and what not to do. But to be also be fair to the point that I was making, the head teachers, we are told, have been engaged. In fact, I had the deputy minister in studio here, right here, and I discussed this with him. He said that they've held several meetings with the head teachers, and they've discussed with them what they can do, what they cannot do.
Have you spoken to any head teacher?
Over and over again. Charles.
Have you spoken to any head teacher?
Charles speaks for them.
Okay.
Charles
and Charles is
speaks for
speaking.
Charles has not spoken
Why?
since the teachers were interdicted.
Okay.
Since the head teachers were interdicted.
But before they had they spoken?
They have spoken.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying.
And they raised
had a
issues with the
meeting.
thing.
Let me tell you, the thing is that I personally spoke to the CHAS, the president of the CHAS. Before the free SHS came up, I was asking, what are the issues you think you are envisaging will come up? They said, so far, everything is fine. So far, everything is fine. All they were waiting for at the time, she told me, was the money to come through. So far, everything is fine. So you can't tell us that so far, everything is fine.
And then the money, only 20% was released.
And then turn
no
around.
formula of sharing.
Hold on. And then turn around to tell us that you needed clarification. But fair enough. It's still fair to ask for clarification. Now, even if we haven't seen it, and the ministry has engaged you and told you not to take money from people, and you go taking money from people, obviously, if it were you would not be happy, would you?
Obviously, listen, any attempt to lessen the burden on parents, okay, as far as education is concerned, it's a very laudable thing, and that everybody should support it. However, I think that, some years ago, we would have been on the side of the head teachers. I'm coming. Some years ago, the media would have been on the side of the head teachers, would have been on the side of the teachers. But today, we are on the side of government. And now, government says this.
If you say we're on the side of government, who is on the side? Because we're dealing with the issue. We're looking at both sides.
Suddenly, I'm coming. The other day, a day or 3 days before the launch, even media houses or something, you saw journalists who were wearing T-shirts, Lacoste, free SHS
They certainly weren't coming from multimedia.
Okay, no, I'm not blaming. I haven't mentioned multimedia.
I'm just saying, they certainly won't be coming from
every show, for 3 or 4 days, prior and after, was all about free SHS, free SHS, free SHS. And such that nobody was ready to listen, okay, to any dissenting opinion on the matter.
True.
And I'm saying that years ago, we would have been on the side of the teachers.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's a change.
So if you say that, then it's
maybe a change. It is a change.
You're trying to make your points, but make it clear.
A change had happened. You see,
don't be
journalists as we are, or media houses as we are, there's a temptation of becoming part of the problem. We should listen to both sides and then pronounce judgment. I mean, this is government talking, and I'm saying that the party had actually, pushed this whole thing and said that they were going to redefine basic education and said kindergarten all the way to SSS. Free SHS only became the nickname for that kind of thing. Now they come and everything is being redefined. Now it's no longer that, you know, second year and third years we're going to benefit from it and that is going to start afresh, redefined. Then they told you also that they are going to give you money. The money is ready. Then the money never comes. Eventually, when you ask, they said, oh, we've released only 20% of the funding. What is the formula towards sharing that? How many students are in Achimota and how many students are in my school, Bishop Herman? How many students are in Presec and others? And how are they, what is the allocation? And these are genuine questions that the teachers are asking.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Okay, but the teachers, the head teachers in question, and because I wanted us to, yes, I wanted us to look at that, whether it is a fair, it is a justified action taken by the GES, or whether or not these teachers, like you're saying, these head teachers are being victimized in the interest of the government, in the government's own interest to push their SHS.
Can I draw your attention to something?
Please do.
Under this same SHS thing, free SHS thing, redefine other things and so on, there's an issue where the same GES is not being allowed to implement the policy. A secretariat had been established to implement the policy.
The secretariat is part of the GES. It's under the auspices of the GES.
Oh, why would you create another secretariat after? Just why wouldn't you allow just
I don't have answers.
And then now,
but I could, but in my own small way, I could think that this is supposed to. Yes, this is. I mean, of course, that's what we are. We are human beings. We're supposed to be thinking all the time. So you could understand and say that, well, perhaps they wanted to give specific attention to this, which is
another duplication of role.
Make sure it works.
Another duplication of role.
So let me.
But then, no, I was going to answer you.
Okay.
Then so you have GES, which virtually has its powers cut off and and directed into the free SHS secretariat. Now taking action. So. I'm coming.
I doubt that is so.
Oh no, but I mean, why would you create a secretariat? We all know that GES is the institution that's supposed to be managing our education.
Okay, how does that answer the issue of the SACT and the interdicted teachers?
Well, it answers that. Then why would GES now be sacking people on behalf of that secretariat? You don't have the power.
The secretariat is part of the GES.
When? I thought they had another office.
No.
They had another, and then an officer put in charge of it.
Larry has spoken quite a bit, so come.
Yes. Let me come in. I mean.
Oh, you don't agree with me?
Larry.
I don't have to agree with you.
There's this confusion in Larry's head, which I don't
really
know. You need to
don't make him beat you up.
You need to take some water. But I'll still want to.
Again, no comments.
No comments.
First of all, Larry shouldn't be confused because the free SHS policy, whatever, secretariat, under the Ministry of Education.
Right.
You know, the ministry has a number of ministers. They have one in charge of a deputy minister or minister, even minister of state in charge of education.
Right.
And we have a minister of education, and we also have.
That sounds like duplication, by the way.
Good.
You agree?
So no, I mean that's a duplication. But I'm talking about the free SHS policy secretariat. Now they have one in charge of tertiary, deputy minister in charge of tertiary, and there's one deputy minister who is in charge of basic education, right to secondary level. So it is the same office that has been turned into the free SHS policy.
You are not answering my question.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No, he's building a
where
point.
Does the power? Where does the power of the GES end, and where does the free SHS exactly? And where does the free SHS begin?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Who is answerable to who?
Ministry of Education has a number of deputy ministers. One is in charge of tertiary education. One is in charge of basic education.
Basic education.
Yes. So these two deputies, one is heading the free SHS policy secretariat. So it's not duplication. The person is still doing his work. Now, let me start by commending President John Mahama. It was during his tenure that he did marvelously well to put some secondary schools across. I mean, that was a good move.
It was condemned.
Was it the
E-blocks?
Right.
The E-block secondary schools.
How does that answer or deal with the issue?
Let me finish.
Please.
You see, those schools have come in handy because there were facilities that were supposed to aid in the implementation of the free SHS, which at the time NDC said it was going to be progressive. So they started from somewhere. NPP is also continuing from somewhere. So I'm commending John Mahama for starting a policy that has given a leg for Akufo-Addo to continue.
The foundation for them.
So here people are being on scholarship all this while under the Mahama administration.
Exactly.
Let him land. We have less than 10 minutes to wrap up,
okay,
so let him
So,
land.
so those scholarships in a way played a role. That is how come Akufo-Addo is able to implement the free SHS now. Now, if you want to talk about the sacked headmasters and their issue,
That's what I want us to address, because this is somebody who has spent perhaps most of his years working in this school. All of a sudden, you yank him out.
Yes, that is what.
And
that's
the
what he
school
made a
has
point.
just started.
He made a point. This is the flagship. It might not be the flagship. I mean, but it's one of the flagships, flagship programs. They have a number of programs.
Let's deal with this particular issue.
Yes.
My concern will be that these head teachers, and they will resonate with the teacher unions, that these head teachers that you have taken out, I mean, is it justified?
It's justified.
You think so?
One, gross insubordination. There's a directive from Ghana Education Service that you should go ahead and admit the people without collecting a penny. If you have an issue, you want to buy chairs. I'll give you an example of Mr. Salamat Samuel, who is the headmaster of La Presec. I mean, he goes ahead to charge 80 cedis for chairs in the school. I don't know whether it's a school that is supposed to provide the chairs for them, but I mean, all these things go through a regional director, and of course, even they have district directors. So if you have issues with chairs, you should go to the you should write to the district.
So why is it not the why is the district director, why is the district directorate or the municipal directorate or whatever not sanctioning the head teachers? Why does it have to come from across?
It's government that is questioning you.
No, this is a flagship program, and NPP will crush anybody who come their way.
Well, how bad is that for national administration?
They will see you as a saboteur. That is how currently they see those people.
Yeah.
They see you as saboteur. You don't want them to implement their policy. So as a headmaster, you stay away from some of these controversies.
If you
but when you do that, then you're also sort of muting head teachers. That there are real issues. There are issues on the ground that they have to deal with. When you put all the students on them, they have to
do you
deal with
recall
them.
Dr. Baumia going to buy desks for a certain school in
I do. We did that story actually.
Okay.
You as a headmaster, did you write to the education service asking that they should help you with chairs and tables? Why do you? I mean, you see, it ends up. So, for example, when the news broke up that La Presec, people were taking money, the headmaster was taking money. The information that came up was that the headmaster is charging extra fees. So that is the communication you are sending out there. You stay away from some of these controversies.
So even though you have issues, it is about how you go about it.
Write it.
Right, that's your point.
Write it to the Ghana Education Service and ask them for help.
Okay, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but let's do it quick.
30 seconds.
Let's see.
I recall Dr. Baumia going to a certain school in Laura.
And I hope you're really not doing politics with this.
No,
this is your way of bringing or dealing with the issue objectively.
No, yes, Andy. And I'm just telling you that, listen, there is always one issue or the other with our educational system. Right. Okay. That at that material moment, Dr. Baumia walked into that school and saw kids on their belly writing on the floor.
So he bought desks.
He bought them desks.
There
are other schools also that need desks. And the guy is saying that, listen, just don't bring the students here. We have an issue with desk.
But the point that he's making is that it's about how you do it as a headmaster. So just because you need chairs doesn't mean when you've been told not to.
Is the headmaster
was he listened to?
We don't know.
Is the headmaster the owner of the
school? So let's find out.
No, we don't. But already,
we are not interested in finding out.
Of course, we need to hear from the
teachers. One thing
teachers.
you know is that the head teacher is not the owner of the school.
No.
If you have issues, you write, you put it in writing and you send.
Sure.
To the appropriate authorities, then they address it.
Okay.
That is one bit of it. But you raised issues with why MPP promised
Let's
to
wrap
start.
up on this conversation,
yes.
actually.
Larry raised issues with why MPP promised.
With the next 3 minutes that we have, if we can talk about paperless at the port.
A quick one. Larry raised concerns about why government will go ahead and, MPP will lie to Ghanaians and then they say free SHS.
Did I mention lie?
I mean, no, it's a way of saying that they've lied. You said
I said they modified.
No, in their manifesto.
That they're trying to change what they said.
No, it's clear. Have you seen a copy of the manifesto?
So,
and I've mentioned the page to you also. You have it?
Yes.
I can send it to you as well.
It's just a matter of you
check the page. Check the chapter. It's just a matter of you not saying it,
but you are saying that you are implying that.
Okay, so your final word.
What I'm saying is that, I commended John Mahama and I'm commending Nana Akufo-Addo. Somebody started from somewhere. Someone is continuing. You cannot have, if they don't have the resources now to start paying for those in SS2 and SS3. It's a good way to start from SS1. Who knows? John Mama may come back and then come and continue and pay for
second year.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take that as
So,
your
I
final
mean,
word. Like, what's
it's
your
a way
final word
of
on free
starting something
SHS?
and
Free
continuing it.
SHS. I think that
You're excited for the parents who are
yes, I
taking their
am.
kids
I
in.
mean, but you see, it has to be.
There's always a but.
Oh yes, it has to. It has to be regulated. And I started with Madame Jen Opoku.
No.
Exactly. Who said that? Listen, let's properly define this thing very well. Let's see the policy document on the thing. Let's regulate it so that we prevent waste.
Okay.
Because then it will end up like that. Do you remember youth employment? Where Zoom police, this, that, and then in the end we notice that there's
lots of
terrible
comparisons,
waste.
don't you?
Yes.
Okay, I take that as your final word on it. You obviously don't think it's a great idea.
Oh, I think that you
Are
see,
you forcing
funding
words
is going
into
to
his
be
mouth?
funding is
asking.
funding
Larry
is going to
doesn't-
be funding is going to be a problem.
Difficult.
Okay, funding is going to be a problem. None of those says we are going to rely on what natural
Oil.
resources,
I think
oil
it's-
money. Every now and then the oil price is going down.
Okay.
Okay, gold price is down, cocoa price is down, this is down, and
Well-
you know natural resources, bauxite, where is it, and so on. So
I'll ask, does it really matter? Because look,
Okay,
there
so
are
let me
several
end.
reports
We're
that-
going to have
that
to,
says that
we're
the
going to
oil
have to end
resources
it there.
is
But let me
being-
bring
is
you
being-
this thought
is being abused.
from Prince again. Prince Tahiru Wayamsi says, "Gifty, please, who are these NDC guys in the studio?
Oh.
They are really playing on the keyboards of people's emotions." I don't, I
Oh.
don't know. I don't know
Oh.
if I
Really?
got.
I've
I don't know
disagreed
if I
with you on
got.
a number of
Okay, so they
issues.
disagree with you. They disagree with you on that. But let's see if we can talk briefly about paperless port. I've heard a lot of complaints. People think that it's slow, even though the government said it's going to actually make it faster, make clearing your goods faster. It's slow. And I've had my mother had an issue at the port, and she had to pay a lot of money for demurrage. At the end of the day, she lost everything and still owed a lot of money.
How long ago?
Oh, this was a long time. This was in 2009, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or 2009, thereabout. But there's been a lot of complaints. It appears that this is supposed to make the system more effective, but it isn't. I don't know if there have been concerns that some people are sabotaging, and making it very difficult for government to push this through. But then we also heard from the vice president that actually we've made a lot of money, even though people have said that let's wait till the end of the year and look at the targets that we had and balance it. So we know that it's because of the paperless system that's making us make all of that money. But I don't know what your thoughts are. Have you cleared anything from the ports lately?
No, not when they started this
You haven't.
paperless. I've
You
not done
haven't.
anything.
But what are your thoughts? Briefly, we've run out of time.
I think that such a policy will obviously reignite some sort of defense from those who are benefiting from the system. I mean, if you go to the ports right now, you have to pay a lot of money. I mean, from Goro boys, if I should put them down in that category. What they do is that this one will take some money from you, that one will take some money from you. I'm processing your paper for you. You have to pay this for it to be cleared and all that. So the corruption at the port was way too much. So I'm sure that is why the government decided to introduce the paperless project. If you recall, Dr. Bamia was earlier saying that people who had come to his office and told him that they wanted jobs. And when you ask them where do you want to work, they said at the port, because there's a way to make a lot of money at the port. So going paperless, obviously, naturally people will reject because they are benefiting from the corrupt practices over there. So with the time you've given me, I mean, it's a good move. I don't want the vice president to jump the gun. He should hold on. Let us wait whether we will get, the money, the target set by the port authority, how much they want to gain. Let us see that they've gained enough.
More than that.
More than
then
what
we
they
can
set
say
as
that
target,
it's because
so that
of
he can claim credit for that.
Okay, all right. Well, let me take your brief thoughts on that as well. Right?
Well, thank you so very much. First of all, I've heard people say that the cost of import duties have gone up, and that a 40-footer container, which used to clear at 32,000 Ghana cedis, is now going for 79. Ghana cedis.
I haven't been.
And
those
Guta,
details.
the Greater Accra spokesperson for Guta, a certain Kojo Amwate, revealed this on one of your sister stations, I think as Empower or so.
Okay.
And he's saying that they're going to organize a press conference tomorrow, on Tuesday, to lay this matter bare. Now, paperless. and whether or not it's been able to raise revenue up to what 56%, as Dr. Baumia is saying. What was really the target that was mentioned? That suddenly we woke up, the thing was passed. Was it 1st September?
Yes.
And then 3 days.
That was the time set for it to start.
Okay, so
it was a holiday.
And then 3 days later, revenue has increased by how much? Money.
Oh, but there's a lot of money going through that port, you know.
No, exactly. Money will go through that. But then you see, when you tell
You
me
don't think that's enough to?
You see, again, and then, you know, it's a policy that, you know, government is going to crush people when you try to stand on their way.
Gifty, you know something. He's talking about paperless, and he's challenging the fact that if you go paperless, he doesn't know.
He's talking about the fact that the money that, according to the vice president,
yes,
we've made.
For that one, I'm saying that the vice president should hold on.
I think that's the point he's made.
What I'm going to say will amaze you. I mean, just at TV3, our radio station, 3FM, we were reading scripts from, printed scripts, just like what Gifty is having.
They do allow me to finish my point.
At the point, we decided to go paperless, where we'll be reading the scripts from the computer in front of you during the bulletin for 3FM. You'll be amazed how much we have saved from printing papers and all that. So, there are ways of trying to...
So this is to save costs from printing?
Yes, of course. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just linking it to something. I'm giving an example from what we have discussed so far, that we have implemented.
I think that I've heard a lot of clearing agents raising issues with the matter. Just like the teachers, can we listen to them too? Can we bring their side also, so that we can make the issue, this whole, free SHS better, paperless better, and everything? Because who doesn't want progress?
Better. Unfortunately, I have to.
You should be going paperless. You don't need
I love writing on papers, so I'm not yet to go on paperless. But it's been an interesting discussion. I have a very interesting director who keeps shouting the time anyway. But thank you very much for coming, gentlemen. I've had in the studio Larry Dugbe, editor with the Herald newspaper. Larry, thank you very much for coming. And Edward Covey, editor, assignment editor at the MG Group. TV3 and 3FM and all of those things. Now it's MG Group. My name is Gifty Andopia, and I've been doing this with David Odro, director. David Odro in Yao directing. Sheila, prompting for me. Andy for sound. Tosh, Isaac Eshen on camera. Emmanuel as well on camera. Thank you all so much for your time. I hope to catch you again next week. But in a few minutes, we'll bring you the JoyNews Prime.